I'm not here to teach you about ethics or say what you should do. So I'm simply going to give you some tools, and you can either use them to be aware of them and then know when other people use them against you, or you can use them however you wish. Because truly, even if I wanted to, I couldn't stop you. But without further ado, let's begin and get into how you can get literally anything that you want out of any conversation. And let's begin with a childhood game. So in my childhood, there was a game where you would say, or you would ask someone, things that were the color red, for example. So what's the color of an ambulance? Red. What's the color of a, apple? Red. What's the color of a rose? Red. And then they would ask you something like, what's the color of a police car? And the correct answer would be blue. But because you said red already 3 times, sometimes you would be tricked into saying red, even though you would even obviously know it yourself that you are wrong. And the reason is because when we say something or do something, we're much more likely to repeat it. And this is also called the yes ladder. So for example, if you want someone to say yes to something, get them to say yes a few times before it, and the chances that they say yes again increase. So this is very common in sales and marketing. People will come and ask you, are you from around here? And then you say, yeah, I'm from around here. And then they're like, wow, well, isn't it a great sunny day? Wouldn't it be fun to do something? And I go, well, sure, yeah, it'd be fun to do something epic because it's a great day, right? And they get you to say yes and be in that mood of yes, yes, yes a few times. And then they're like, oh, by the way, here's a, poster for promoting some event, some concert tonight, wanna see you there. And then you're like, oh, well, sure, I'll take it. And they tricked you because they got you to say yes so many times that then when they hand you the poster and like, oh, am I gonna see you at the concert tonight? And then you're like, well, yeah, I guess. Because you said yes so many times already. It's the same with, when you're buying something. You first to go buy something, then they ask you, oh, well, do you want the special deal? We got, bonus going right now that if you buy this thing, you can also get this other thing a bit cheaper. And then you're in the mood of buying, and then they can get you to buy more and more and more and more. Once again, you do an action, it is more likely that you repeat it. You say something, it is more likely that you repeat it. And so you can use this in basically any creative way that you want. If you want someone to do something for you, get them to do a few small favors like, oh, could you open the door for me? Could you do this? And then you give them the big ask of, oh, by the way, I need someone to drive me 1 hour away to this, thing. Could you do it? And they're much more likely to say yes, and so on. And also be aware of the opposite. If you constantly ask someone questions that they answer no, then it's more likely that they're gonna say no to the next thing. So if you ask someone something like, oh, so did you really like coffee? And they really hate coffee, and they're like, no, I don't like coffee. And then you ask them, oh, by the way, I gotta go to this event tonight, can you drive me there? They're a lot more likely to say no. So be aware of the yes ladder and the no ladder and all the fucking ladders of repeating actions. And you can use that to get what you want out of conversations. You just get people to say yes a few times, and every time the likelihood that they say yes to the one big boom at the end increases. Another very clear thing that you can use to get what you want out of a conversation is by controlling the options. And what I mean with this is, let's say that you wanna eat burgers. You had pizza last night and you really want burgers instead of pizza. So instead of asking your friend, what do you want to eat, which is a common question, you ask them, do you wanna go to this burger place or this burger place? And then they think to themselves, oh, well, which one do I want to go to? And in their head, they're thinking that they're in control. They're deciding where you go to eat because they're, deciding which place you go to. But in reality, you already control the options to the ones that you want because you want burgers. So you'll fine with either one of the choices. And so you limited the choices to already the options that suit you. And once again, you can see this in, if you go to a restaurant, they might hand you a wine list. Oh, here's the wine list of tonight. Pick whichever one you want. Already controlled the options. What if you just wanted water? But of course, water doesn't make the restaurant as much money, so they're much more likely to hand you a wine list and say, which wine do you want? Because, they make more money. And they already control the options to, now you're picking some wine instead of water. And once again, the moment you're aware of this and you know of its existence, you take a pause and you think to yourself, are these truly the only options? And that's when you awaken. That's when you eliminate it. And it's the same with the previous one. Always take a moment before you answer any question, before you do anything. Always take one singular second to pause, think, are these truly the only options? And then you will eliminate any kind of, power that someone has over you or any kind of trick that they're trying to use by just pausing, taking a moment and pausing. And pausing and taking a moment in itself is an amazing tool that you should have in your arsenal. And just taking a moment and pausing. Let's say you're in a group of people and there's a lot of conversation going around. Just pause. Just to take a moment of silence. Because here's the thing. If you speak the most, you learn nothing. Because you already know all the things that you speak out. You cannot speak things that you do not know of. So if you're the one speaking, you're not learning anything. And everyone else is learning about you. You are revealing the most and learning the least. But if you take a moment in a hectic conversation and you just take a minute to be silent and listen, you reveal the least and you learn the most about what other people's intentions are. What do they want? What are their motives? And so on. And it's very valuable information that then you can use to negotiate, to, know, this person wants to do this. Maybe I can, agree with them and we can go do that thing because I clearly prefer going to the water park instead of going to the amusement park, for example, right? And then but if you're constantly speaking, you can't even know this dude wants to go to the water park, this dude wants to go to amusement park, and then you don't even know what the options truly are. But take a moment, pause, listen, and so on. And it is also a show of power, because every conversation has a power dynamic. Every interaction has a power dynamic. And usually you can know which one has the power and which one has to try to impress the other is by which one is more comfortable in silence and which one is willing to walk away. That's how you know who has the power. So very simple situation. You're pitching an idea to someone. They're comfortable being silent. They can just sit there and be like, well, go ahead, pitch me. They don't need to speak a single word. They're comfortable being silent. They can just walk away. They have all the cards. They have all the chips. You're the one who needs to convince them because you're pitching. And there is something like this in every conversation. And you can probably remember to yourself times in your life when you were in a conversation and you felt like, you know what? I just feel relaxed and being silent. I don't need to talk. I don't need to feel the silence. And I can just be here. And other people are constantly trying to, fill the silence with questions like, how was your weekend or whatever. And that's how you know that you are in the position of power. And when you hold all the negotiating chips, and there is a good place to be, because that means that you control where the direction of the negotiations go and the conversation goes. And that's the position that you want to be in. And of course, to be in that position and to get into that position, you actually have to either have some sort of chips to play, so you're the boss and someone's pitching to you, or you're on a date and the other person wants you more than you want them, and then you're kind of just chilling, you know. Maybe you got 3 options of, you know, people to choose from, and they only got you, so they have a much bigger incentive to convince you than you have to convince them, because you got other options, right? And so there is always some dynamic. And here's the great thing. You can create this dynamic and create it in your favor. So if you're talking to someone with a lot of money, a lot more money than you have, then probably don't talk about, you know what, money is the most important thing, you know what, I really just need more money and so on. Because now you're looking at a frame where they are above you, because they earn more. But if you're talking to someone who earns more money than you, then frame the conversation in a way where, okay, you know what, actually the most important things to me are, you know, physical fitness and health. And then if you're in better shape than that guy, now all of a sudden you frame the conversation in a way where you are above them. Now they need to impress you. Well, actually, I also, you know, go on walks every now and then, and I, you know, take taekwondo classes, you know, in my childhood or whatever. Now they're trying to convince you. Now they're trying to impress you. And so find something in your life, and it could be anything. It could be that, you know what, I really, you know, to me, artistic things are the most important. I really love playing the guitar, or, you know, health and fitness, or, you know, money, or, you know, having a great social group and friends. You can literally just find one thing in your life that is which you can use to frame the conversation, always in a way where you have like the position of power, and they need to convince you that they also have that thing, or they're also working on it, or they're also cool and hip and cool, square, boom, hip to be square, and so on. So always frame the conversation in that way. And the great thing is that as long as people see that you have something more than them, something above them in some metric, they subconsciously always try to, you know, impress you. And you can even plant ideas into people's heads. This is a very, very important tool in your toolkit that you can use to basically get anything. And there's a very common example of this, of, you know, don't think about pink elephants. And of course, the moment you say don't think about pink elephants, everyone thinks about pink elephants. You planted the idea into someone's head. And you can do this with basically anything. So for example, try this sometime. Go up to a new person and say to them, you seem really fun and spontaneous, and so I just really needed to talk to you. They're subconsciously now gonna try to prove to you that they actually are fun and spontaneous. And you can use this to your advantage. So now they're gonna act a lot more fun and spontaneous, or what they believe that a fun and spontaneous person would act like. And of course that increases the chances that, you know, they're gonna be jokingly and laugh at things and, you know, have fun and so on. But if you go up to some new person and you tell them, oh, you seem to be reserved, so I just came and talked to you. Well, now they're subconsciously gonna try to prove to you that they are reserved. They're gonna be a lot more held within. They're not gonna open up as much. They're not gonna speak to you as much. And of course that's gonna make it a lot harder to have a conversation. And so realize that you need to plant ideas into people's heads of what you want them to be like. So if you want someone to be really, you know, hardworking and so on, for example, then every time that they tell you something like, oh, you know, yesterday I did that, you're like, wow, you're a really hardworking dude. I'm impressed by that and I respect that. And all of a sudden now you planted the idea of, oh, I'm hardworking to them in their head, and now every time they see you, they're gonna have to try to prove it to you. And of course, you know, you're gonna have to remind them every now and then, you know, keep giving them that, you know, feed, keep planting the idea in their head, and it's gonna grow. You plant the seeds and now you're watering them, and then it's gonna grow, and every time you see them they're gonna be more and more hardworking and do more and more things to prove to you that they are hardworking. And once again, you can do this with anything. Fun and spontaneous. You want someone to, just give you a bit more time out of their day. Just talk about, what? Yesterday I met some dude and they really took some time out of their day to, help me by carrying my groceries because I had so many bags. And I really appreciated that, and I really remember that so fondly. And you talk to people like this, like, oh, yesterday I met this dude and he was really in a hurry, but you know what, when I dropped my newsletters, he helped me pick him up, and that was one of the best moments of my day. And people are gonna notice that, and once again, you're planting the ideas in their head, and they're like, well, you know what, now I need to prove that I'm that great of a guy. Now I need to prove that I'm, as good and as, helpful and so on. And then they're gonna start acting more like it. And so plant ideas into people's heads of what you want them to be like around you. And it's gonna help you in making basically any decision that you want. You want someone to, ditch their plans and go to the movies with you. Say that, you appreciate spontaneousness. And then they might be like, well, it's spontaneous to go to the movies instead of going to the whatever the original plan was. And then if you want someone to, stick to the plan, then be like, I really like decisive people who just, pick something and stay focused on it, and boom, they don't change it. They're, directed and focused on one goal. And once again, that's more likely that they're gonna stick to their original plan than switch it up. Like, you can plant these ideas in people's heads and help you get what you want out of the conversation and just in general. And another amazing thing is that have an excuse or a reason to ask for anything. So if you're ever gonna ask for something, always have a reason for it. There's literally been studies that when you say because of something, people are a lot more likely to do it, even though it's a stupid reason. So it doesn't matter if it's a good reason, bad reason, as long as you give some reason. And so this reason could literally be very simple. So if you like, oh, I really wanna, go and have coffee with this person. Who knows? Maybe that's what you want. And the reason could literally be like, oh, we should go have coffee sometime because we need to catch up. We haven't talked in a while and it'd be great to catch up. Like, if you just say, hey, would you want to have coffee sometime? Like, they could say yes, they could say no. But if you say, you know what, because we really need to catch up, we haven't talked in a while, and so on. And then it's like a lot more likely that they say yes, because you gave some reason. You gave some reason why you would do that. The same is with like, hey, I know this really great coffee place that we need to go check out because it has the best coffee in town. And you say, because it has the best coffee in town, once again, you say because something, it's a lot more likely that they say yes, because you have some reason to ask them to do something, to have coffee with you or whatever. You have some reason, so always have some reason. But usually you don't want to make your, like, the base intention within you clear. So why do you want to have coffee with this person? Who knows? Maybe you want to get to know them better. Maybe you find them attractive. Maybe they're a great friend and you just want to spend time with them. But if you just say, yo dude, I want to spend time with you, bit weird, and you reveal your inner intention, which usually isn't a good thing, especially if you're negotiating something. Of course, with a friend, it's fine. But like, if you're negotiating something, let's say you're selling something to a customer, why would you want to reveal your inner intention? Like if you're selling toothpaste, like if you're talking to a customer selling toothpaste, You can't just reveal your inner intention. Well, you know what? I actually kind of just want to make a lot of money, and toothpaste is a great product because it has great margins, and it's a product that people really buy month after month. You don't have to get new customers every month. You can just resell to the old ones and so on. Like, that's not a very convincing reason for someone to buy your toothpaste, even though you probably don't care about any other reason, which is, I guess, respectable. But what you wanna say is you have once again have a reason, have an excuse. Well, I'm really into the toothpaste business because my grandma didn't have proper toothpaste, and I just couldn't bear watching her with all the cavities and the pain she was in. And you give this kind of like sob story, and then you like, but that's why I invented this new toothpaste that's super new, and it's just like every other toothpaste, but the package is different, and that's why you should buy it. Like that. When you give some reason, it's a lot more likely that they buy. You give some reason instead of just saying, what, so here's a toothpaste, you wanna buy it? You give some reason, and when you don't reveal the inner reason, the deep down, the real reason, because usually the real reason is not very flashy. The truth is usually very boring and not the thing that people wanna hear. So when you have another reason, and I'm not saying that you need to make up lies, like the story about your grandma could be completely true, but you just choose to speak the reasons which suit your agenda. Yes, it's maybe a bit, on the ethical borderline, but so is fucking everything here, okay? I'm not here to teach you ethics. I'm just here to teach you how to get what you want. So give the agenda, give the reason that they would, in a sense, prefer to hear. And another really important thing is that you simply learn to say no. I mean, think about it. If you always say yes, you will never get what you want, because the moment somebody asks for something that you don't want, you just say yes. So you kind of have to grow the balls to say no to people. That is a prerequisite. You have to be able to say no. Now, of course, you can say in a kind way, in a respectable way, I'm not ruling that out, but you have to learn to say no. And another thing that is related to this is that don't apologize all the time. When you apologize, that is a sign of weakness. Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate that that's how the world is, but that's how the world is. It is a sign of weakness, and it's a confession of guilt, right? What do you do when you do something wrong? You apologize. So it's a confession of guilt. You did something wrong. And that puts you in a position where you lose all negotiating power. Imagine if you're doing a deal or whatever, and somebody notices a mistake, and then you apologize. Oh no, I apologize, how can I, oh man. And then after that, there's no way you can make any demands that they respect. You lost all your power by apologizing. The moment you said, oh, I apologize, is the moment you lost all power, and it's the moment you can no longer make any demands in the discussion. You cannot make any more demands in the negotiation because you admitted guilt. You admitted that you have done wrong, therefore now you have to kind of repay it. That's how human psychology works. You do something wrong, well, repay it. And so you apologized, you admitted guilt, therefore now you have to repay it and do really good deeds and be selfless and altruistic, right? And now you lost all power. So if you notice that, oh, you did a mistake, instead of apologizing, just notice, oh, it seems there's a mistake, well, let's correct that. Now let's continue with the negotiations. That simple. Instead of apologizing, you just corrected the mistake. Now you didn't admit guilt, you didn't lose your negotiating power, and you can still continue forward. So don't apologize. And this is once again with everything. Somebody calls you names, you call them names back, and then you're like, you know what, I apologize, I shouldn't have done that. Well, now all of a sudden everyone can get up on you. Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have called him names and so on. It's like, well, he called me names too, and he hasn't apologized. And now everyone's treating like I'm the bad guy, even though he called me names first. I was just defending my honor, right? And once again, the moment you apologized is the moment you admit guilt. The moment you lose all power. You cannot negotiate. You cannot make any more demands. So don't apologize. And the final thing which you can use to get what you want out of conversations is to provide value. I mean, if you just provide a lot of value to people, it's a lot more likely that they repay it, that they pay back. You know, you do 10 good deeds to someone and then you ask them to do one good deed to you, like, they're probably gonna do it because they're gonna feel responsible for providing some value back. And it could be very simple things. You know, you go to visit your friends and you bring them cake, you know, for free. Boom, here's cake for everyone. Then, you know, you bail your friend out at 3 a.m. Boom. Not a good deed. Then you do this, then you do that. You constantly provide value to people. You constantly, you know, make them feel charismatic by, you know, being a good conversation partner. You constantly, you know, do all these good things. And then the moment you ask for something, it's a lot more likely that they will do it because they're like, this is a great dude. He provides so much value to me. I want to provide some value back, and I definitely don't want to piss him off and lose him. So I want him to keep providing his value. Therefore, when he asks for value, once again, with a reason, with an excuse, then I will say yes, because he provides so much value to me that I want to, you know, pay back every now and then. And those are some great tools that you can use to get whatever you want out of any conversation. And so, as always, go out there, stay disciplined, chase your dreams, and have a fantastic day.